On the night of March 2nd, 1944, train number 8017 departed from Salerno Station, Italy. Although not designated for passengers, every inch of the train was occupied. Due to scarcity caused by the war in the Naples area, the Potenza region had become a magnet for the Hungarian speculators seeking agricultural products to resell at exorbitant prices. Among the travelers were desperate parents in search of provisions for their families and individuals left with no alternative but to embark on the journey, hoping to find something to eat. Together, they constituted the diverse passengers of train number 8017, spanning across 47 fully loaded wagons. At the Battipaglia junction, the American military police forcibly removed several unauthorized passengers, sparking protests that fell on deaf ears. They had to stay in Battipaglia, cursing the Americans. Little did they know, they would soon find reason to thank these same Americans for saving them from what would ultimately become the train of death. This is the story of the Balvano train disaster. Despite never colliding or derailing, train 8017 bore within it a silent and ruthless assailant that would soon claim an astonishing number of lives among the passengers. Stops at Eboli and Romagnano continued to attract more passengers, and by the time it reached Balvano, the train was crammed with 600 to 650 people. It was there that the first hints of disaster emerged. The Balvano station is situated in a small clearing between two tunnels. The 8017 was so long that half of the wagons remained inside the descending tunnel, still filled with the locomotive smoke. For almost 38 minutes, the passengers in the final wagons had to breathe the tainted air of smoke and gases in the tunnel. Finally, at 12:40 a.m., the drivers released the brakes, and the 8017 moved toward the ascending tunnel. Using the telegraph, the station master transmitted the departure signal to his counterpart at the next stop, Bellamuro, approximately 8 kilometers away. Normally, the train would cover this distance in about 20 minutes, but it didn't arrive in 20 or even 60 minutes. In reality, the 8017 never reached its intended destination. The locomotive entered the tunnel as usual, its boilers operating at full capacity, emitting thick smoke from the chimney. The coal used during those wartime days was of notably inferior quality, resulting in imperfect combustion and the production of copious carbon monoxide, an odorless yet highly lethal gas. As it approached the tunnel's exit, the locomotive lost traction, and its driving wheels began to slip. The reasons for this are yet unknown. The train driver applied full power to the engine, and an assistant poured sand on the tracks in a desperate attempt to improve traction. However, their efforts were futile. The wheels continued to slip, and the machine not only failed to move forward, but also reversed several meters, leaving the last two wagons outside the tunnel's entrance. What happened afterward will forever remain a mystery, but the scenario is chillingly easy to imagine. While the locomotive drivers and stoker persisted in their desperate efforts to move the train forward, oblivious to their impending fate, the locomotive's chimney continued to belch thick smoke. As the air inside the tunnel lost its oxygen, the carbon monoxide levels surged, winding its way like a treacherous serpent through the dark tunnel, silently claiming the lives of hundreds of unsuspecting passengers who were either asleep or resting. Francesco Imperato, sensing the suffocating air, attempted to step out of the train in search of fresh air. He barely made it out of the wagon. He lost consciousness and collapsed. His next memory was waking up at Balvano station. It is assumed that, in his semi-conscious state, he somehow managed to crawl to where the air was purer, ultimately saving his own life. Domenico Miele also ventured outside and reached the mouth of the tunnel, where he gulped in precious fresh air. Worried that the train might leave him behind, he hastily climbed into one of the last wagons. To his astonishment, he found all the passengers in a profound stupor, but he had no time to react before succumbing to unconsciousness himself. Thankfully, only a handful perished in those 2 wagons. The others, though deeply sedated, managed to cling to life. Perhaps the most bewildering aspect of the tragedy was the delay of the station masters in Balvano and Bellamuro in realizing that something was dreadfully amiss with the 8017, which showed no signs of emerging. It was a brake guard making his way from Balvano to Bellamuro who made the horrifying discovery. Appalled, he witnessed the tragic cargo of the 8017, and shortly after entering the tunnel, fell unconscious as well. He endured for about an hour or so, after which he somehow dragged himself toward the exit, and as best he could, staggered to Balvano. There, he delivered the grim news before collapsing. His once jet-black hair had turned as white as snow. Out of the 700 passengers aboard the 8017, only 100 survived. The remaining 600 transitioned from slumber to death within the tunnel between Balvano and Bellamuro,